Like meth, the most daunting part of trying to wrap your head around microing in Dota is starting. So hopefully I can get you all set with a bit of a kickstart in terms of giving you a bit of a cheat sheet and an explanation of possible control group pairings and hotkeys. Let no man or woman claim ignorance as an excuse to not start learning Meepo. It's very easy to write off Meepo as a hero that other people play, that other people are good at, when in reality that's just a fabrication and barrier that you put up for yourself for no real discernible reason. Learning Meepo, more than any other hero, is like learning how to play an instrument, or even learning just how to play the drums, which I've been told by my bandmates isn't actually an instrument because it's just banging things with sticks, which monkeys can do. Yeah. Anyway, let's learn Meepo. We're about to get really specific here. So like an instrument, there is the default finger positioning for Meepo Micro, but there's also the alternative way to fit your own personal needs. Left-handed people can invert their guitars and restring so they can hold their neck with their right hand and strum with their left. Play air guitar right now and see what your mind naturally defaults to figure out which way that you should do it. Drummers can hold their drumsticks orthodox, like a jazz or marching band drummer, where they sort of have one hand upside down and one hand the right way up. Or they can do matched grip, which is just the same thing on both sides. They can play with their hands crossed over each other, like most of them do, or they can play open-handed. Or if they're really pretentious and difficult, they can go to an amateur night at a bar, walk up on stage, spend 10 minutes inverting every drum's position, so the ones traditionally on the left are on the right, and then they can unscrew the toms, flip them around, they can replace the right cymbal with the crash cymbal, and then they can play a 3-minute song. Guess which one I do? The reason I bring this up is that, other than maybe with that last one, nobody really bats an eye at an alternate way of playing the way that you want to play. Whatever you find most efficient is whatever you find most efficient. I mean, sometimes it's even appreciated. Kurt Cobain played it the other way around. Really, you can do whatever you want to do here. And so with that said, in this guide we're going to be diving into all of it. Quick cast, autocast, altcast, left hand microwave, right hand mouse key microwave, or even, and without any condemnation, derogation or disparagement, yes, even the much maligned mouse marquee select. You know the one you probably do already without thinking about it, where you gather up all of your Meepos on the same screen and box select them all. Inefficient? Yes. Terrible? No. We've got to play the way that we play. There's no shame in it. For the longest time, I learned Meepo using the control groups F1 through to F5. Over 300 games, I can safely say, please, oh god, please don't make the same mistake I did. With the setup I had, it caused me to have to remove my fingers from the ever so important 1 through 6 and Q through R in order to micro properly. Because of that TDM and the fact that I had to actually search for the buttons with my fingers and count down the row to find which button was F3, I'd recommend against it. Something else I've always done, and something I'd actually encourage you all to do, is to keep Meepo 1 at F1. Not as a control group, but as your main button to control your hero. In options, set F1 to select hero. It's literally the first option. With it, you can double tap to immediately center the camera on that Meepo, or actually any hero you find yourself playing, while single tapping allows you to select that unit without messing up whatever you're looking at. Very handy. Another tip is to unbind select all controlled units and instead go into advanced options, which is the next category after hotkeys, and take unified orders with control, which achieves nearly the exact same purpose as long as control is held down, which is very easily done with your pinky. Consider right now any time you'd ever specifically used your left pinky before in Dota. So with that handled, you are free to set your control groups away from F2 to F5 if they were that, and onto, for instance, the numbers 1 through 5. Not the best setup, but it definitely works. The only thing left to do is go into advanced hotkeys and set something for select all other units. I personally have mine set to the topmost mouse button, but if you'd want to do it on your keyboard, I'd use maybe T or caps lock or anywhere in the vicinity of my fingers in their resting position. With that, you're probably ready to get into a game. As you all know from those hours and hours spent playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on the living room TV, in skateboarding, riding left-footed, as in with your left foot in the back, is called goofy, as opposed to the regular stance. Well, considering this set of control groups is all about swapping hands from the one on your keyboard to the one on your mouse, I thought the name Mickey was a neat name for it, because you know, mouse, Mickey, Disney, Goofy, and the fact that you probably didn't know this about me, but I'm partnered with Maker Studios, and in fact get paid out by Maker Studios, which is a subsidiary of Disney, which means that technically yes, I am an employee of Disney and as such could appear in the next Avengers movie. Fun fact. Anyway, yes, this setup is all about utilizing those mice with the buttons under your thumb, which of course means that not all people can do this. To pull this off, you'd need to either own one or invest in a pro gamer mouse for pro gaming needs. Things like DPI, RPM, DTF, and other such abbreviations for things I don't really understand. Mice that work for this strat include the Razer Naga Chroma, with its like 12 customizable thumb buttons, the Logitech G600, or the Corsair Scimitar Pro. Unfortunately, none of these brands replied to my sponsorship email, so don't buy any of them. The idea behind it is just that you can utilize your oft-forgotten right-hand fingers, where before you'd only really need to use your index finger for left-click, your middle for scroll, and your ring for right. Now we tap into the potential of that thumb and pinky finger, only ever used before today to fling the hang 10 at your surfer pals, while still using F1 or 1 for the Meepo and control for group select. The benefits to this are that you don't have to deal with alt buttons or having your control groups occupy 1 through 6 and QA through RF, the most important keys in any hardcore gamer's repertoire, apart from of course N and I and G and... There are as many keybind variants as there are Dota players, of course, with everyone having the potential to find their own sort of way that fits their own needs. Perhaps you've got no fingers on your left hand, so it, more resembles a giant club. Perhaps you play on a laptop with a trackpad. Perhaps you're confined to a wheelchair and have to shout out your commands into a computer that converts your commands into inputs. I don't know, man, I haven't met every single person in the world. It could be possible someone like you exists. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to help out much there, but I mean, I can still try. Regardless of the key bindings that you use, control group variants will end up being less about the physical limitations of your fingers and the mental limitations of your mind. By default, you will have absolutely no control group, and I imagine like most, you'll naturally default to setting a control group to every individual Meepo that you have. And sure, that works, but that's throwing yourself in the deep end there, isn't it? I mean, do you really need to have 5 or more control groups to play Meepo? Let's just see what other people might go. What better way to lend credence to your playstyle than to just copy exactly what a pro player does, right? As far as I understand it, unless he's changed it, No-Tail uses a system where his hotkeys are 1 for main Meepo, 2 for Meepos 2 through 5, 3 for his third Meepo, 4 for his fourth, and 5 for his fifth. You'll notice immediately that with this setup, there's absolutely no way to, just select Meepo 2. And in fact, he rarely does. I mean, he can't. TI winning No-Tail simply manually selects Meepo 2 with his mouse like a troglodyte. If it's good enough for him, why can't it be good enough for you? The reason he binds 2 like this is specifically for ease of access when it comes to blink puffing. The second most pressed number key for No-Tail, and anyone else who uses this guide, is 2, the number that selects Meepos 2 through 4, 5 if you get ants, which is probably what you want. With Meepo 1 unselected, we have the ability to cleanly move him into a position of blinking into the opponent we want to, kill, because of course the main Meepo is the only one who can hold the items, and Meepos 2 through 5 will join him with a collection of puff, click, tab, puff, click, tab, puff, click, tab, puff, click, tab. The easiest thing in the world, once you get your head around it. This is probably your first hurdle, and I mean, in theory, it's 3 simple commands repeated 4 times, and to build up speed, all you need to really be able to do is just remove the process from your higher cognitive systems, and instead embed it into muscle memory. After a bit of practice, without thinking, you could probably get this combo down to milliseconds. But what if we wanted to do it faster? You'll notice that previous combo had the tedious inclusion of those time-consuming clicks. Literally millions of nanoseconds are wasted with that need for that. So what happens if we just enable quickcast? I mean, now we've cut 33% of the process out of the process. If you're daunted by quickcast, I can sympathize. I mean, beyond Meepo, I rarely ever use it. Not because it's inferior or anything. I mean, probably it's better than what I do now. But I was just taught to play Dota before quickcast existed. Objectively, it's superior to the normal tactic. All it is instantly casting any target spell exactly where your mouse cursor is at that exact point. You don't need to click, on key press, the game just inputs your cursor position and casts quickly. For Meepo especially, this means that your mouse cursor can be way off target and still do its job, as puffing only really implies that your mouse is closer to one Meepo than it is to the other. In fact, it works almost perfectly, as that cursor will almost definitely already be on the enemy that you're attacking, because your main Meepo is attacking it, and because he's melee, obviously, he'll be right next to him. Makes sense, right? If you're beginning to learn Meepo right here and now, I'd suggest doing so with quickcast. Quick question, what is the biggest key on your keyboard doing in a typical game of Dota? If you answered nothing important at all, you'd be both correct and incorrect. Correct because your spacebar, this huge button literally right under your thumb, simply centers your camera to the last place someone pinged, which is useless, or even in some cases is just unbound and literally does nothing at all. So herein lies why this is called the Cosmonaut. We love space here, right? It's also the setup I prefer. So here goes. Space selects my main Meepo, Z my second, X my third, C my fourth, V my fifth. Theoretically, I haven't really needed to use the V control group for years now, but at least I'm prepared. Obviously, I can't use it because I don't have the fifth Meepo because I don't have X. That leaves my items for 1 through 6, but if you like having your items as Z, X, C onwards, you can switch them. To select all Meepos bar my main one and illusions, I use Alt plus 1. To select all Meepos including my main one, I resort to unified order with control. I've never really ever found a need to select all of them instantly. I then use Alt+2 for a unique scenario, just illusions. By the end of this mega guide, you'll understand why illusions are so important to warrant their own control group. For now, just know that you can poof onto them. Yeah. Okay, now hold on to your heads because it gets really wacky from here. I then use Alt+Z, Alt+X, Alt+C, and sometimes Alt+V to select all Meepos except the Meepo that would be in that position. And obviously, again, Meepo Prime, who never gets selected with these. Okay, so bear with me. It works like this. Z selects my second Meepo. Alt-Z selects every Meepo that isn't my second Meepo. 3, 4, and 5. Alt+X controls Meepo 2, 4, 5. Alt+C controls Meepo 2, 3, 5. And Alt+V is irrelevant anyway because I've never really actually had a 5th position to not select. The entire game is spent not selecting Meepo 5 already. And then for the final touch, I have a mouse button under my right thumb to select all other units, which obviously selects all but Meepo 1. You might think that that's the same as Alt+1 because Alt+1 selects all of the clones, but the key difference here is that the mouse button also selects illusions if I have any. What if I don't want to select illusions? Well, then I'd pretty much need that Alt+1 control group, right? I mean, you can't really seriously believe I'd waste precious milliseconds just clicking off of the illusions. Anyway, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I know. A real hodgepodge and a bit of a bog job, but you can't really tell me that I'm not. I wouldn't recommend that you copy me, but I mean, on the subject of honesty, I felt like I should probably share that. In the next part, we'll assign a very special set of control groups for you to begin with, which is a slight step down in insanity from my own setup, and then we could pretty much get you into a game.